Hey everyone, it's Kaycienikole, and today we're going to go through a yin restorative hybrid kind of practice. The focus is going to be on opening and unwinding the spine. So we're going to get all the different movements of the spine in a more relaxed way. Now, the difference between yin and restorative, yin is going to put a little bit more tension on the joints, and then restorative is going to be a little bit more relaxing and nourishing to the body, a little less tension. Now, you get to decide the level of depth or tension that you put on the body based on the level of props that you give to yourself. The more you provide props and comfort and support, the more you're going to be able to relax and ease in. If you want a little bit more tension, you can find the positioning of the props to allow that to happen as well. So allow yourself to cater this practice to your specific needs. We will need 2 blocks today. I have a bolster. I have a pretty thick bolster as well. So if you don't have the equivalent to this, you can also use a body pillow, cushions, or roll up a really thick blanket so it's nice and firm. We just need something that's going to create a little bit of firmness and support. And then you're also going to want a wall space for our very last posture, okay? If not, you can just ditch that one, but I promise you it feels really, really good. Okay, so when I think about spinal opening, I think about side bends, twists, back bending, and forward bending. Now, obviously, we're going to keep it more on the low key side so that we can release into these positions. So nothing muscularly active. We're going to use the props to support our bodies within those shapes. So the first one we're going to set up for is going to be a side bend. I'm going to grab my bolster, and I'm going to bring it near the back of the mat. And as I do, I need space for my head and my shoulders to kind of spill over. I'm going to show you first what it's going to look like, and I'm going to give you options for extra support. Okay, so as I prepare for this, I'm going to start by sitting up against the back of the bolster, and it's going to be perpendicular to me. So the long ends are facing out to the sides. And I'm going to let my knees swivel to one direction. I'll cue you here in just a minute. Whatever side we go to, that opposite hip kind of lifts up, and we're going to allow ourselves to drape over. If the bolster is pushing into your hip bone, go ahead and scoot away from it just a little bit so that the hip bone can come underneath the bolster. And that way we feel the lift and support underneath the ribs and above the hip line into that kind of softer space. And as you release over, the shoulder's going to rest down, the bottom arm weaves underneath. And then the head relaxes to the floor. We're going to take the top arm, stretch it over, and then just feel a gentle stretch through the top leg. Okay. Now, sometimes resting the shoulder all the way to the ground doesn't feel good, or the head can't rest all the way to the floor. And if that's the case, you're going to use either one block to support the head, or even still, if you need a little bit more, use 2 blocks. You can also use blankets, pillows, whatever you have at home. That totally works as well. It feels better for me without the blocks, so I'm going to set them out of the way, but please accommodate your body, okay? So just for the sake of visualization, we're going to start with turning towards the left. So as you come up against the back of the bolster, maybe scoot away from it just a little bit so there's room for the hips. Let your legs swivel to the left side. And as they swivel to the left side, you can reposition on your mat as much as you'd like. And then you're just going to slowly start to drape yourself over. Once again, try to get right above that hip and then allow yourself to melt over. Once you're down, left arm weaves underneath and then let the head relax over. Right arm is going to stretch overhead. You can relax the arm as much as possible and then gently stretch out through the top leg. And as you do, let it soften into this position. Now, this isn't a super deep stretch. This is just enough to create some opening and allowing yourself to kind of settle into this shape with gravity. Nothing forceful. A good time to start establishing some breath work. So let's go ahead and close the eyes, relax the jaw, and feel this sense of release muscularly. So you let the muscles just soften. Maybe you fall out of the shape just a little bit. That's okay. Try to release the effort and the control and instead just sink into being, allowing. Let yourself unravel into this position. Go ahead and exhale, let everything go. Take a slow breath in. And as you breathe in, imagine breathing up the length of your side body, all the way from the lower hip, all the way out to the fingertips. Feel the space, holding briefly at the top of the breath. And then just open up your mouth and let it go. Let's do that again. Slow inhale from the hip all the way to the fingertips. You can even feel it traveling down the length of the leg to the toes. Hold it at the top. And then open up the mouth and let it go. Go ahead and take one more on your own, feeling the full capacity of your breath, and then gently releasing it and feeling yourself settle in. Now, traditionally in yin, you would think about holding your postures anywhere from 3 to 5+ minutes. And in restorative, because you're in a more relaxed position, a lot more comforted, you can usually stay up to 10 minutes. We're going to stay in our postures for about 10 breaths each, give or take. So somewhere in that sweet spot in between, and just allow yourself to relax as much as possible. Settle your breath into its natural rhythm. We've already created the space. So now just allow yourself to be here. Let the mind empty out. All of your distractions slowly fade out of your focus. Give yourself about 5 more slow breaths in and out of the nose. There's absolutely no rush. One more deep breath here. And just let it out. Start to pull that top foot back in. Walk your top hand back in. Use the top hand in front of the face to gently kind of roll towards it. Press yourself up and come all the way up. We're going to circle our knees back around to the front. And to counter stretch this, we're going to go directly into the other side. So let the legs drop to the right. Scoot your hip a little bit. Make sure there's a little bit of space between the hip and the bolster. And then let that right side start to melt over the bolster. Right arm weaves underneath, like threading the needle. And then let the head drop either onto 2 blocks, 1 block, or all the way down to the ground. Once you find this shape, make any little adjustments, get nice and comfortable. Take the top arm, reach it overhead, stretch it out in front of you, reaching, and then settle. Then take the top leg, reach it out nice and long, feel that elongation. You can play with the angle a little bit until you feel the reach from fingers to toes. And then relax that as well. Let yourself hold in this shape. We're going to take a couple deep breaths together and then I'll let you be. So let's exhale, let everything go. Through the nose, take a slow breath in. Build it all the way from the bottom to the top. Feel it travel all the way down the length of your left side. Once you're full and expanded through the left side, hold it briefly. And then just open up your mouth and let it go. Again, slow inhale, filling from the bottom to the top. Take your time, fill the space between the ribs. Holding. And then open up the mouth and release. Take one more of those on your own, really, really full breath. breaths. And then just let your breath settle. Let it relax. Not having to do much of anything besides just be here. And we're going to be here for about 6 or 7 more slow breaths. Just let it relax into its own pace. One more deepened breath for good measure here. Start to bring the top foot in a little bit. Walk the top hand in a little bit. Bring it right in front of your face. Lean into it slightly and help to press yourself all the way back up, spinning back around to center. Okay. So now we're going to do a similar kind of pivoting from side to side to open up into a twist, but we're going to set up our bolster a little differently. So first, I'm going to give you some options, okay? First option is to use almost like a ramp. I really, really love the ramp, okay? So the ramp is creating a ramp with your blocks and your bolsters. So it's going to start off lower, closer to you, and it's going to go up higher where your head is going to go. Then we're going to take the bolster and we're going to lay it over. Notice how it's fully supported. So if you don't have quite the right positioning, it might feel like it's sagging in some places, or it might feel a little bit uneven or unbalanced. Okay, so just try to find where the blocks need to go to have the best support from the bottom all the way up to the top. Okay, I'll show you, then we'll get into it, and that way you have an idea of what we're going to be doing. As I pivot, my hip's going to be against the end of the bolster. I'm going to twist, framing the bolster with my hands. As I release over, head can drop to one side or come into a twist by dropping it to the other side. Okay, so that slight incline can feel really nice because you have a little added support rather than having to lower so close to the ground. The other option is to make more of a bench. And to make more of a bench, that means it's going to be more level. Okay. Now, obviously, if it's more level, that's fine. You're still going to have a little bit of the ramp going up to flatten out. And then same thing, you release over, head to one side or twisting to the other. If you want to ditch the blocks altogether and just have it laying flat, you can also do the same thing. I just noticed that it feels a little bit deeper of a twist when you do that. So if that's what you're looking for, get rid of the blocks, lie it flat, and do the same thing from that position. Okay. So go ahead and set your bolster up with your blocks into your preferred setting. We're going to get started here. So I'm going to face away from the bolster again. And then my knees are going to fall to the left side. We're going to do the same thing. And then I'm going to scoot so that my left hip runs right next to the edge of that bolster. Then I'm going to twist to the left side. And as I twist, my hands are going to frame to either side. If you need to reposition your hips or your legs a little bit, that's totally fine. Lengthen the spine. Really draw it out nice and long through the crown of the head. Slowly start to melt your body over the bolster. Now, once you're down, I would suggest starting by just dropping your left ear to the bolster. If you feel that you can go deeper and it does not put any strain on your neck, then you can look over to the left and rest your right ear to the bolster. This is going to complete the rotation through your spine, but please don't force it. Take it if it feels good, let it go if it doesn't. Now, once you've settled yourself into your position, you can relax your arms as much as possible. Try to bring yourself into a position where you don't have to use muscular activation to hold and support it. That's what our props are for. So if you don't quite have enough props, you can grab blankets, you can grab pillows, you can grab anything that helps to bring in more comfort and support into your position. So go ahead and settle in. Once you're in, go ahead and release your breath all the way out. Slow inhale, fill up the belly, open up your ribs, draw it all the way up into your chest and your shoulders, holding at the top of the breath. And open up the mouth and let everything go. One more together. Slow inhale from the bottom, all the way up to the top. Holding it here briefly. And then open up the mouth and release. We're going to hold in this shape, just letting go. If you want to take a couple more deep breaths, you're more than welcome to. Otherwise, just allow yourself to release. Let the breath drop into the belly, into its nice, natural rhythm. And let's take the next 7 breaths to just be here. I'm going to leave you in silence. Feel free to come back to the breath if the mind becomes too distracted. Let's take one more bonus breath. Now start to walk the hands in. You're going to press to the hands just enough to lift the head. Let the chin drop to the chest, rolling up through your chest and spine. Then let the head lift up. You're going to take your right hand, bring it back behind you, swivel the knees back around, come back up. And feel free to take any movements that feel good for you here. You can round over your legs. You can sweep your knees side to side, any position that feels good. Go ahead and incorporate that here to bring back a little neutrality and balance. Okay, slowly come all the way up. We're going to do the other side. So now let your knees swivel to the right. You can scooch your right hip to the end of that bolster. Get it nice and set up. And then take your arms, twist to the right, and take your hands to either side of the bolster. Reposition legs as much as you need to. Long spine. Start to walk your hands down the length of the bolster. Once again, right cheek can rest down. Or if it feels ready, left cheek can come down, coming into the full twist. Please keep in mind that even if your head doesn't go to that opposite shoulder, that you're still doing the pose, right? You're just accommodating your body. If there's tension on the neck or if it feels too strenuous, you back off and you take the position that feels good. Remember, it's your intention. What are you choosing? What variations are you choosing for yourself? Align yourself with whether or not you're looking for something more restorative or something with a little more tension. And then accommodate yourself from there. Provide the props that are necessary. We're going to take a couple deep breaths together, and then I'll let you be to just surrender and let go. Exhale, let everything go. Slow breath in, fill up from the bottom, all the way up to the top. Hold at the top of the breath. And then open up the mouth and let it go. Again, slow inhale, fill up from the bottom, up to the ribs and all the way up into the chest and shoulders, holding it here. And open up the mouth, exhale, release. Take as many of those as it feels good for you to do. When you're ready, just relax away from more of the effort on your breath and just let it become more easy, more rhythmic, more smooth, a little less forced. And we're going to be here once again about 7 or so deep breaths. Don't worry about counting. Just let yourself be here. I'm going to leave you in stillness once again. So just enjoy. One more bonus breath. Take your hands to either side of the bolster. As you press to the hands, let the chin drop to the chest, lifting yourself up. Once the head lifts up, left hand sweeps behind you, swivel the knees back around, come back through that center point, and same thing. Maybe just let yourself round over or counter stretch however it feels most appropriate for you. Few breaths, just let yourself unwind. All right, let's lift ourselves all the way back up. We're going to now set up for a fish pose. Fish pose, you can either keep the ramp set up or even keep the bench set up if you want to, okay? You can also eliminate and just get rid of the blocks altogether and keep the bolster flat. So you get to decide, and I would play with it, feel it out, and see what feels best for you. The ramp can feel really, really nice, but the closer it goes to the ground, the more depth and opening you're going to get into the spine and into the heart space especially. So find what works best for you. I'm going to give you one more option. If you're looking for something that might bring a lot more intensity into the position, take your bolster and now turn it sideways. So now it's going to be perpendicular to your body. I'm going to show you the differences, okay? So first, if you have it as an extension of your spine, it doesn't matter if you have blocks underneath it, it's going to be the same way you get into it. Hips go right up against the bolster. I like to kind of push the end of the bolster down. So I round over and allow yourself to open. Arms open up, okay? So obviously you're going to either be lying more flat. If you have blocks in a bench, you're going to be able to lift up a little bit higher. And then obviously, if you have the ramp, your body's going to be more at that incline, okay? Find what works best. If you want more depth and you turn it sideways, it's going to run perpendicular to your spine. And then you're going to slowly, same thing, just let yourself roll over. My head feels really comfortable on the ground, but you can also roll up a blanket or use a block, bring it underneath the head, and provide some support here. Okay. I like my head to be a little closer to the ground on this one because I can go deeper into the position. Otherwise, it creates more of that ramp-like effect. Okay. So set yourself up in whatever position you're going to do here, whatever position feels best. And if you're not sure, play with it. You can always try something more intense. And as it feels like too much at any point, you can change it up. Or if you start off a lot more restorative and you're like, hey, next time I want to add up and ramp up a little bit of that intensity, you know exactly how to do it. Okay. Once you have the bolster set up, your legs can do anything. So I'm going to give you some options. You can cross your legs. You can straighten out the legs. You can bend the knees and just have the feet on the ground. You can also take soles of the feet together and let the knees open up wide, which is going to add a little bit more of inner hip and groin opening. And if your hips are feeling really open and ready, you can also take heroes, reclined heroes pose. So the feet go out a little wider than the hips as the hips sink onto the ground and you allow yourself to fold back over there. Now, that's a really intense position. We haven't done a whole lot of opening, especially into the quads and hip flexors. So if that feels good and you don't need any warm up, great. If not, all the other leg variations are fine as well. So once you're ready, let yourself recline over your bolster in whatever setting you prefer. Find the leg positioning that also aligns with that intention. Work out those little fidgets in the body. Close the eyes, let them settle back into the sockets. Notice how this feels, maybe even rate it on a scale from 1 to 10 and see if you're within a nice sweet spot. How much intensity did you want versus how much intensity do you feel? Once you realign yourself, you can stay there or you can change your mind, and that's fine too. Let's take a couple breaths together. Exhale everything out. Take a slow breath in, fill up from the bottom of your torso. Lift it all the way up to the top. Notice where the body expands. Notice where there's resistance. Hold it at the top of the breath. And then open up the mouth and let it go. Slow breath in, fill up from the bottom to the top. Holding it here. Then open up the mouth and release. Let's do one more together. Slow breath in. And open up the mouth. Slow breath out. You can sigh continuously if you'd like, or you can seal the lips and just let yourself breathe in and out of the nose. A more relaxed rhythm. We're going to take 10 more breaths here. Let yourself fully surrender. If you feel anything is active to hold this shape, bring in more support, change up the position, whatever you need to do to allow yourself to relax. We're going to take one more deep breath here. Deepest one yet. And then just let it go. Okay, so to come out of this position, maybe walk the feet in, depending on if they're free. We're going to lift the chin to the chest. Push your elbows into the ground to help lift your upper back. Walk the elbows in. So now you're using your elbows as a little bit of a kickstand. Then you can walk up onto your hands, lift yourself up, walk the feet a little more forward. We're going to come into our counter stretch as our next position. Notice how your body naturally wants to fold forward. We're going to lean into that. So take your bolster, bring it around in front of you. You can move any blocks that you have in your way. And then we're going to come into a forward fold, but we're going to keep our knees bent. So it's going to be focused more on your back versus just focused on the hamstrings. So you can stretch your legs out, but make sure that there's still a bend into the knee. We're going to take the bolster. You can either bring it up into your lap or you can bring it into the space right between your thighs. Okay. The option is yours. I'm going to show you two different options. First option is you bring a block up on its highest point to support kind of the top of the bolster, and then you allow yourself to fold over. Okay. That's one option. Let your back round. If your head doesn't quite reach the bolster, you can either stack up a blanket or a pillow and let yourself rest on it, or you can take another block on top and let it support you here, right? Okay. Other options. Sometimes even coming into that position, we feel really sticky. You also have the option of flipping the bolster so that it's ramped up towards you. Okay. And then from here, I bring the block so that it's right in front of me. And then I can just relax over here. I can even hold on to a block, hands underneath the block, and relax the head. You can also use a blanket or a pillow. Once again, can be a lot cushier than a block. Okay. So take the option of your choosing. If you're really open, you can keep the bolster flat on the ground. That's fine. Okay. But choose whatever variation is going to work for you here, whatever height feels most appropriate, and make sure it's stable and it's going to support you. Lift your spine and then let yourself melt over. It's okay if there's rounding in the back. Allow that to happen. We're reversing the motion of the opening through the hips and through the spine. So let the head relax. You can drop it to either side, or if you prefer more neutral, stack your hands and let your head rest onto your hands. It's okay if your knees kind of fall open to the side. Remember, it's less about the hamstring stretch and more about just relaxing your spine into some flexion. Let's take a couple breaths together. Starting at the bottom, releasing your breath out. Take a slow breath in, fill up your belly. Lift it up into your ribs and chest. Hold it here. And then open up your mouth and let it go. Again, slow breath in, fill up from the belly, through the ribs and all the way up into your chest. Hold it once you've reached the top. And then open up your mouth and let it go. If you want more of those, take them. Otherwise, just relax your breath, relax your lower belly, let it just spill out. And we're going to be here for the next about 7 breaths, nice and slow. Once again, don't worry about counting. Just focus on letting go. Let's take one more deep breath for good measure. Now use your hands to either side of the bolster to press and lift yourself up. Roll the spine back up. You can set your props out of your way, just for now. Drop onto the hands. Feel free to move however you please. Maybe that's windshield wipering your knees side to side. Maybe that's stretching out long. Maybe that's curling up real tight. Whatever you prefer. We're going to finish up against the wall for legs up the wall. But I like to go for a supported variation, and that way I get some lift and opening into my lower back as well. So I'll show you first. We'll come into it together afterwards. So I'm going to come over here to my wall space, and I'm going to have a block handy right nearby, okay? I'm going to come down into a fetal position and scoot my hips towards the wall. And then I'm going to roll onto my back and let the legs come up the wall. Now, depending on your hamstring flexibility, if you have a hard time getting your hips to the wall, legs extended without your hips curling up, right? If your hips start to curl up, chances are there's too much tightness along the backside of the body, so we need more space. If that's the case, just scoot your hips a little bit away from the wall until your hips comfortably rest on the ground. Not barely to where you still feel tension. I want them to feel grounded, restful, and relaxed, okay? Not a whole lot of tension. Now, depending on where your hips are, find your positioning. So get yourself into this position. Have your block with you. And then we're going to take our block. The block will come at 3 heights. Either its lowest setting, on its, I like to say on its belly, on its mid setting, so it looks more like a toaster, or on its high setting, okay? The higher the block, the more lift, the more intensity. So choose what's appropriate for you. You're going to begin to bend the knees, lift the hips, and then take the block underneath your sacrum, which is the back of your pelvis. And then let your pelvis kind of roll down and support right on top of that block. So it's nice and flat. You don't want an edge just poking you in the back. You want it to make sure, first of all, that it's stable with the ground, but it's also stable with your hips. Then legs can just extend and hold here. Okay, the higher the block, the more intensity. So if you want more, lift it higher. If you want less, lower it down. It should be on your sacrum, which is the very back of your pelvis. It is not that curve in your lower back, nor is it your glutes. Find that little shelf. And once you do, arms can rest into any position here. Go ahead and let your eyes settle back into the sockets and just feel the decompression of your lower back. Any of that residual tension, just let it trickle out. We're going to take a couple breaths together, just like we have been doing. Exhale, let everything go. Take a slow breath in, fill up from the bottom to the top, all the way around the torso, maybe even feel this slight lifting and expansion. Holding it. And then open up the mouth and let it go. Again, slow inhale, fill up the belly, the ribs, the chest, holding it here. And then open up the mouth and let it go. Do that as many times as you'd like. And when you're ready, just let yourself settle and relax into this shape exactly as you are, losing all effort. We're going to be here about 10 breaths, but just let yourself release and let go of anything mental, physical, emotional. Just let it all go. Settle in and just be. Go ahead and take one more breath here. Wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. Start to bend the knees, walk the feet down just a little bit. Lift the hips, remove the block, set it out of the way. Lower the hips all the way down to the ground. And then you can kind of sway your knees side to side until you feel ready to hug the knees to the chest. And then just roll yourself to either side. Come into a nice little fetal position. Use your top hand to press into the floor in front of you. Gently guide yourself up into a comfortable seated position. Close the eyes, lift your spine. Just take your hands over your knees and just create some little circles in the hips. Little circles rolling through the pelvis and spine. Switch directions, opposite circle. Sway yourself back to center, hands to your heart. Thank your body for all that it does for you. And thank you so much for allowing me to guide you today. Open up your eyes whenever you're ready. So I love a good yin or restorative practice just to allow everything to release and unwind. It can be very mental because the body is in a more relaxed position, so the mind tends to take over. So if you felt very busy-minded, no worries. Just know that that's part of the practice, is learning how to kind of calm down and find comfort within that discomfort. It does take time. It's a practice like anything else. But if you did feel nice and restful the whole time, notice how that feels throughout your entire body and throughout your mind. I would love to hear your feedback in the comments, and I'm looking forward to practicing with you guys next time. Thank you.